Hey, welcome back. Today I wanted to share with you how to make a whole dress from scratch. No lie, whole dress from scratch. And you can use this method to make a skirt or a top. So you can make it a two-piece, you can make it a dress like I did, or you can make them separate. All right, so I started out with some scrap fabrics that I had. The black was the bigger piece, so that's going to be the bottom that I had, and then the green was the smaller piece, so I'm going to use that to make the top. I'm going to be making a one-shoulder look. They both are satin, so I was deciding on if I was going to go with the shiny satin side or the more matted inside. The last time I did go with the matted side, but then once I put them on, I decided to go with the whole satin. So I put it on the dress form to see what I wanted to do with it. I tied it in the back to keep it up, but you can put it on yourself and you can tie it, pin it, do whatever, just to get a feel of how you want it to look when you're working with scraps. Once I figured out what I wanted to do, I did the bust, the waist, the hips, and from the hips down to the knee measurement. And I left a little bit of ease in there so that it wouldn't be too snug. Okay, so now I have my measurements and I wrote them on the closest thing that I had, this napkin. If you can tell me where this napkin is from, let me know down in the comments. So just grab whatever you have, write down your measurements, and then I added an inch to each measurement for seam allowance. For the waist to the end of it, you can add 2 if you. So now you want to prepare your fabric. You should iron it. I did not iron it, but you should. So I'm figuring out which side is the stretchier side because the bottom is a stretch satin. So I want to make sure the stretchier side is going to go across the waist, not up and down. So once I got all of that together, then I'm going to cut everything in one piece. So I folded the fabric so that the waist basically is at the top on the fold, if that makes sense. And then I made sure to measure down to make sure I had enough for the length of this skirt. And then now again, I'm going to fold it again so you can still see the waist fold up top. And then I'm making another fold. So that's the center for both pieces. So the center for the front and the back, because I'm not going to be doing a center zipper on it. So now I have that. I grab my measurements and I get the waist measurement plus the 1 inch that I want to add in for the seam allowance. And then I fold the measuring tape in half to make it easy. You don't want to cut that measurement because that would be if you were cutting one flat piece for the front, one flat piece for the back. You want to divide it 4 times. So you're going to fold that half into another half. Now that you have that measurement, I'm going to snip mine, but you can pin it just to mark where the end of your waist is going to be and then go down. I went down 6.5 inches, but they say you're supposed to go down like 6 inches to go to your. So now you add your hip measurement and then I just marked it. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the measuring out, dividing it by 4. For the hip, and then I'm cutting a slight curve into like from the waist to the hip. So once you did that, you want to decide how you want to finish it off. I curved mine kind of in because I wanted to have like a pencil skirt kind of look, and then I just cleaned up the hemline there. And then basically you have your 2 pieces. You would just have to, if you did it the way I did it, cut open the top where the waist was so that you can open it up and have your 2 pieces, a front and a back piece. And you can see where I said if you wanted to do a center zipper, you would have 3 pieces, not 2. But I just pinned it, left an opening for where I would have the zipper on the side, and then tried it back on again and on the mannequin, or you can try it on yourself, deciding if I wanted to do pleats or not. Not pleats, darts. You can do them on the inside, the outside, whatever your aesthetic is. So now I'm done figuring that out, and I'm going to put on switch top piece, which I'm using a t-shirt for to make the pattern super easy. I'm tucking in the sleeves because, again, this is going to be sleeveless, and I'm checking my measurements to make sure that when I fold it, the bust size is the right size. So again, I'm folding it by 4. I added a little bit more to the bust size than what I measured. So now that I've laid it out the best way I can, because it is a scrap and I laid it the way I wanted to go, I folded it in half because, again, I want to cut all my pieces in one piece, making sure I have enough for the front and the back. And then I'm folding it again to give it a center front. And then I'm going to lay my t-shirt back down. And I'm going to place the t-shirt closest to the outside where the armhole and stuff would be, not the center front, cutting out the armhole shape. If I had more, I would have left more for a seam allowance, but I didn't. So I cut real close, and the shoulder and the neckline, which you really don't need because you're going to cut it away, but just to guide you. So I cut all that out, and then I went to the next step. I also cleaned up the bottom, and then I pinned the pieces, after I cut open the side piece there, to make it into 2 pieces, because remember I folded it and folded it again. But once I had the 2 pieces, I faced them right side to right side, pinned them together, one shoulder open, and then I went to go figure out where I wanted to cut the little swoop for one shoulder. So I decided where I wanted to cut it. I wanted to come up from the other armhole, of course, and go into the neckline. Not cutting it exactly where you want it to be because you need some seam allowance to fold it under. I eased in all the extra, for your boobs, So I just pinned it. I pinned it to the mannequin. If you're doing it to yourself, of course, you don't pin it to yourself. And then I just cut that away and did the same step for the back. Now I have both pieces, and I'm going to pin them to each other. Right side to right side, lining up the side where the zipper is going to go, and then the side seam that is going to be closed off, and then opening up the whole other side where the zipper is going to go, because it's going to go from the armpit down to like the mid-hip. Now that you have it pinned together, you can try it on again to make sure good is good before you sew the pieces together. So I tried it on the mannequin again, made sure the fit was what I wanted it to be, and then I went on to the next part. So for this part, you'll have to do some unpinning because I'm sewing the top and the bottom together for the front and the back separately. So you're going to face the top skirt part and the top shirt part right side to right side. Sew that across from each side to each side, and then do the same with the back piece. I don't know if you can see it, but I saw it. The fabric from the green part came up top. I was like, where did I use the green thread? But anyway, so sometimes your fabric will do weird things, so just ignore it. But I sewed both of those pieces together, and then I went on to sewing the side seam, but just the side seam that is going to be fully closed up. So that's the one with the shoulder actually on, not the open shoulder. And I sewed also the shoulder closed at the top. So one half of the dress is completely sewed up, the other half is not. For that half, I just went over it with the serger because you're going to be adding the zipper there so that the edges won't roll. Yes, the dress is back on the mannequin. When you're not using the padding, you're going to have to do a lot of checking to make sure the fit is right. So what I did was take in a bust just a little bit. So instead of adding a regular, I just did a little detail on the outside just to bring it in, and then I'm top stitching it within the seam allowance so that you won't see it when it's done. So I also decided to add some elastic into the waist as opposed to adding a dart. And with this, you can do it with a zigzag stitch too. You just want to make sure that it is tacked down real good before you start tugging on just the elastic, giving it a pull as you go along so that it bunches up the fabric as you're going. Once I was done with that, then I went on to adding the side zipper. I would have preferred to add an invisible zipper, but I did not have one that was long enough. So I'm going to add this one. You get out your zipper foot, the zipper, you turn it so that it's face down to the right side, and it should kind of like that when you're done on both sides. You can choose to skip this step, but I wanted to make a facing for the inside. So what I'm doing is just going to trace out kind of the neckline for both the front and the back, and then add extra for the seam allowance. So now I have a front and back facing piece. I'm going to put them together at the shoulder seam and then finish off the edges. So the outside edges and the bottom, so that it looks like nice and neat when you put it all together. So now that I've finished that part, I'm just going to tack down the seam from the two pieces coming together into the facing. So I don't know. I hope you can understand it. If you don't, you can ask me below because I forgot what it is called to do that. I also then finished up everything else from the armhole. I did that. The hem, I did that. And what else was left? Okay, so the face and the armhole and the hem, and I sewed the side together from the zipper, and then your dress is done. So here is your finished dress with the cinch waist. It looks way smoother on. It's a little loose fitting on the mannequin, but if you like, please give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and watch other DIYs that link down below.